What's good, YouTube? Back at it again with another reacts. As you know, they come back to back, and reacts don't crack. So we getting straight into it. So reaction once again from the dog Dr. Wardy, another Ben 10 vid. In particular, what if Ben 10 wasn't my hero? Now, before we start off, you know the rules. Go ahead, like that vid. You know what I'm saying? If you subscribe, make sure you got that noti bell turned on. Whether on YouTube or Twitch. The Discord link is in the description. That is for any events we do. If you want to join the reaction, or if you want to be notified every time I post a video and every time I go live, that link is where it's at. Find it in the description. You can also find the link to the Twitch and all my other socials. And yeah, y'all can come to the streams, all my videos on Twitch as well. So if you don't want to watch them on YouTube, on Twitch, quick little watch. And I'm not affiliated yet, so watching my videos on Twitch means once I do get monetized on YouTube, when you watch them on Twitch, there's no ads because they're highlights. Tap in now, you know what I'm saying? You'll be golden, I'm saying. Yeah, as always though, make sure y'all drink some water, touch y'all some grass, touch y'all some water, rub a dub, and get y'all some sun. You know what I'm saying? We take care of ourselves around here. We try and make an impact. So without further ado, let's get straight into the vid. Talk to me.
With the manga pretty much wrapped up and the final season of the anime came out this year, I wanted to give my pitch for how you could incorporate a character like Ben, along with his Omnitrix and however many alien transformations, into a story like My Hero Academia, in a way that doesn't totally derail the story of the series and more so works Ben into this world of heroes and quirks. And with Ben's main goal throughout his own series to be a hero, I figured it's only a natural fit for the My Hero universe, seeing as that's the same motivation most every student has going into UA. If you're unfamiliar with the series, we'll quickly go over the general setting, how quirks work, and the general jumping in point of the series. Then work out how we'll translate Ben and everything he's got going on into the series. Then discuss how the events of the show would play out differently had this version of Ben been there to lend a hand. So My Hero Academia takes place in a world where about 80% of people are born with some sort of superpowers that they refer to as quirks. These range from as simple as a character being able to glow a bit, to characters being able to functionally reshape reality through touch. Unlike Ben 10, where there's a scattering of superpowered individuals like mutants, Osmosians, or whatever, very few of which choose to pursue any heroics. But in the world we're talking about today, these abilities are so commonplace that being a superhero is a pretty viable career option for a lot of people, and having superpowers is the new norm. The series itself follows Izuku Midoriya following in the footsteps of the ideal and number one hero, All Might, who passes his quirk or superpower down to Midoriya. Only for Midoriya's body to not...
It's crazy that nobody saw that. Like, your shirt begins to get stretched out. I know that can be heard, bro. I know that can be heard. Someone has to hear that, bro.
Be able to quite handle it, needing to learn to control it and better utilize it down the track. There's a lot more to the series as things go on, but that's sort of the elevator pitch and enough to go on for now. As far as writing Ben into the series, we'll introduce Gwen and Ben to the universe. Let's say the Townsend family is a mismatch of quirk and quirkless individuals. So we'll establish that Grandpa Max has whatever quirk you'd like, something that's capable but not too flashy. To line up with just how absurdly strong Grandpa Max is in the series, we'll give him enhanced strength. And having him this setting as a retired pro hero, not quite in the top 10, but a retired hero in his own right, who worked for a superhero team he led called the Plumbers. Otherwise, Ben's parents were either born quirkless or pretty low tier abilities, whereas Grandpa Max's wife had a powerful ability to transform herself into her Anodite form, giving her all the abilities you'd expect from an Anodite in Ben 10, giving her and subsequently Ben's cousin Gwen the ability to assume these forms and control and manipulate mana. Gwen manifesting her quirk in this universe at a pretty young age, whereas Ben didn't manifest his quirk right away. We'll have Ben going through early schooling just waiting for his quirk to kick in. Think of it a bit like Mark from Invincible, knowing that someday he'll have powers but living a somewhat ordinary life up until that day. That day happening when Ben's around 10, where while on holiday with Grandpa Max and Gwen in a forest somewhere, the skin around his wrist starts to change with the prototype Omnitrix forming on Ben, in a very biological goopy sort of way. Ben panicking, trying to remove it, not realising it's his newly formed quirk. A really quick rundown about quirks, they tend to fall into one of three categories: emitters, mutants, and transformations. I'm putting this one under the umbrella of transformations, but I suppose you could argue it's a mutation quirk, seeing as he's permanently got this organic Omnitrix on his arm at all times. A similar inciting incident to the classic series itself, where Ben transforms into Heat Blast, but in this timeline and in this universe, pro heroes appear to put out the fire. Less confusing this time around with Ben being a flaming man, Gwen and Max assuming he's just got some kind of transformation quirk that now allows him to turn into this guy. So before we move on, let's define exactly how this quirk works. For 10 minutes at a time, Ben is able to assume one of 10 alien forms, Ben referring to them as aliens due to their appearance, even if there is a bunch of odd-looking units in My Hero.
Yeah.
And with these forms sort of translating the malfunctions in the classic series, feeling somewhat random, while actually being affected by Ben's subconscious, analysing the situations and quirks around him, giving him an appropriate ability to fit the situation, whether or not that's the one that Ben actively wanted in the the
Bro,
weakness being the 10-minute time limit, with Ben needing some time to recharge his quirk in between
disappears as he
transformations.
That's tough. That's tough because it
Gooey, the
not sponsored. It kind of talks and touches on like the fact that people can awaken quirks. I like it.
Time shortening as
Nike.
the series goes on. The other thing heroes tend to lean into in this universe is super moves. They also tend to be named. For Ben, we'll call that super move Master Control, where for a short period of time, let's say 1 minute, Ben is able to cycle through alien forms at will, with the downside being that after this his nervous system is
It's like
overloaded,
pooped.
leaving
Yeah.
Ben totally exhausted and his quirk needing a recharge for an extended period of time, maybe a few hours. Going
Huh.
into the series, all aspiring heroes need to get their hero license, which they get through specific hero-based schooling,
My Hero.
and we'll be enrolling Ben in UA along with the other characters the series follows. So Ben participates in the entrance exam, having no real issues here. If we're giving him a big moment, I'm imagining Ben seeing the large robot, thinking he can muscle his way through it, tries to transform to forearms, ending up with upgrade, and in some spectacle, takes over the machine fully, passing the exam.
Tough.
From there, I can see there being some character growth with Ben gaining a better understanding of his quirk, getting shorter periods of time between transformations, and more so using each one more effectively. We won't go too far into the story of the series, but focusing on a few key events that happen earlier on, as to avoid any major spoilers later on. And before we move on, if you're enjoying this video or this style of content, please subscribe.
dog.
If you already are,
Already not
great,
subscribed.
we'll get back into it. The first
sir.
major event I want to touch on is the USJ incident with Shigaraki and the Nomu. I'm imagining with Ben's brashness, he bum rushes the Nomu, miraculously getting forearms and wailing on him. Problem being that the Nomu was built to counter All Might,
Shock
the
of
strongest in the series to this point.
Yeah.
Not only being generally super strong and having the ability to regenerate, but also being able to absorb impact, leading Ben to tire himself out, timing out before he could do all that much. And in that, Shigaraki, seeing his quirk stems from the Omnitrix on his wrist, I forgot to mention at this point, we'll call his quirk Omnitrix. Shigaraki then goes to touch the
Touch it.
Omnitrix, using his quirk to decay anything he touches, in order to get rid of Ben's Omnitrix along with the rest of him. But before he can do that, and in an instance that's very My Hero Academia, with quirks evolving and be able to get you through when you push yourself,
Yeah.
the Omnitrix immediately recharges, and right as
Ghost
Shigaraki
Freak?
goes to make contact with Ben closes his eyes, only to open them as Ghost Freak, using his
Okay.
intangibility for the first time to save himself. And then events in the series play out as they do from there, All Might
tough.
coming in to save the day. Jumping forward to what is one of my favourite anime cliches with the tournament arc. It takes place early in the series,
He's
but
cooking.
as far
He's
as this
fine
video is
anymore.
concerned, we'll give Ben his hero name now. Maybe like some of the others in his class, he couldn't land on the right hero name right away. But since Ben refers to his transformations as aliens and the other classmates will hear that, we'll have the other students start calling him Alien Force. For the sake of slotting Ben in, let's
Alien
assume
Force
for
is
whatever
crazy.
reason Midoriya was sick that day and couldn't participate in the tournament. So we'll have Ben take his place in each of his rounds. First up, he goes against Shinzo, who can control people if they respond to anything he's said. Ben, not knowing this, responds right away in typical Ben fashion, with Shinzo controlling him to go out of bounds. We need some way for Ben to snap out of it, so we'll have Shinzo in Ben's head, but something isn't quite right. There's another
Just
voice
the
there.
Ghost
Then the
Freak.
manifestation of
Yeah.
Ghost Freak frightens Shinzo out of there, releasing his control of Ben. So far, pretty Ghost Freak heavy, but let's get into it before the second match. Rather than it being Zascare's
Lord.
DNA influencing Ghost Freak, let's have Ben's Ghost Freak form follow Dark Shadow's rules. If you're unfamiliar, Dark Shadow is another quirk in the series that has will of its own, growing stronger and more uncontrollable in darker environments, and more placid and weaker in lighter ones. And for whatever reason, Ben's Ghost Freak
tough.
transformation
That's like
has a
canon.
will of its own. Next up we have Ben versus Todoroki, who we won't go over too much, but he's one of the major characters in this arc specifically,
He's getting
with him
fried.
having this internal battle about using his quirk. His quirk being able to control both fire and ice, with him, due to a
Blast
quite in-depth
packing him
situation
up.
with his family, not wanting to use his fire side. We'll say right off the bat Ben gets Diamond Head, and Ben being the character that he is, like Midoriya, would want to
holy
push
crap.
Todoroki to fully embrace his quirk, and in so, I imagine breaks apart all the ice Todoroki can throw at him before using Master Control, intentionally switching to Whip Jaws, unhinging his jaws to terrify Todoroki into using his flames. Todoroki, previously seeing Ben in enough training exercises or other events, using each alien, knowing that Ripjaw's weakness is heat. With Ben knowing Todoroki would have been aware of that, set him up to win. With Ben allowing himself to lose here, somewhat regretting it after the fact from how unpleasant that would have been for him as a Ripjaws. We won't go over future events as beat by beat, but before we wrap things up, let's go over a few other events I can see happening for Ben. As far as the forest training arc goes, I can see a moment for Ben overwhelmed by a villain, unlocking a new transformation like Cannonbolt in order to beat a villain. As my favourite arc with my favourite character from the series, Overhaul, there's a lot to this one, but I can see a catalyst for the Omnitrix recalibrating, or in universe, a quirk evolution for Ben. With the arc revolving around rescuing a girl called Eri, with the ability to reverse a living being back to a previous state, or the main antagonist of the arc, Overhaul, who has the ability to disassemble and reassemble matter if he makes contact with them, we'd have Ben, as a result of one of their quirks, either through Overhaul making contact with Ben's Omnitrix, or Eri's rewind ability somehow tampering with it, leading to the Omnitrix shifting and changing shape into that larger look for the Omnitrix like we see from Ben 10,000. I'm picturing the Omnitrix writhing about like Venom when he's hit by sound, before reforming into that more gauntlet-like look. After that, I can see Ben being a major asset for the students trying to stop the villain Gigantomachia. He's so overwhelming as a physical force, they don't even plan on fully defeating him, they're just trying to trap him or even slow him down. In that moment, I can see Ben gaining access to Waybig, who, for the sake of keeping things interesting, contends with Gigantomachia, really holding him back, but using Waybig really drains Ben's quirk faster, having him revert back to his human form after a few minutes. The main thing I've been going for is to not have Ben outright replace Midori in story, but just joining him as another classmate at UA. Obviously, apart from the tournament arc, where it was just easier and more interesting to have Ben take on Midori's role. Other than that, picture these transformations scaled down a bit to be more in line with the power ceiling we see in series. Not to totally take away from these transformations, I can imagine a few of them are making pro heroes feel a bit inadequate, but a lot of that would come with time, with Ben learning to use each of them more effectively, and their abilities improving with further training. If you've had any thoughts or feelings on anything I've said here, let me know, I'd love to hear it. Otherwise, if you've made it to this point in the video and aren't subscribed, please do so. But either way, I just appreciate you being here.
See?
Thanks for watching.
You like me for real. I appreciate everybody who watching. You feel me? You make it to the end. You made a way through. Konnichiwa, my favorite mod. But yeah, whether it's like you were in the first minute, I mean, you still gotta do your 3 good deeds. Whether you came in the first minute and left, or you're midway through, or you made it to the end, I appreciate you all the same, because you're helping me grow the community and help, you know, my goal, ultimately creating an impact and leaving a powerful legacy. But yeah, I appreciate y'all for watching, and that was my take on what have been 10 was in My Hero Academia by our dog Wardy, Dr. Wardy. Let me, you know what I'm saying? We're not on the familiar level. I'm just call him Doc on the from the dog Doc. But yeah, that's it. Peace.